In this video, we're gonna find out how far the new Zeekr 7X all-wheel drive can go on a full charger battery at a constant 120 kph or 75 miles an hour. We'll also be measuring the cabin noise as well as testing how reliable and accurate the route planner is. All of this and more will be explored in today's video. We are finally back in the Zeekr 7X. I've had this car featured on the channel a few times now. First time I saw it at the eCar Expo back in February here in Norway, and then I went to Portugal to the launch in April, and then I had a car on loan for a day in mid-April here in Norway. But that's a long time ago, and finally I have one for a full week of testing. And guys, if you want to know how this car will perform at 80 and 100 kilometers an hour, I have a new Norwegian channel called Elbilkris. I'm gonna link that down below. And I would highly recommend you guys to go subscribe to that channel and support that channel. We're really trying to get that to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Because the reason I started that channel is to get more access and early access to more cars, because I'm still part of the Norwegian press when I go on trips, and I'm still prioritized further down the list because I do content in English. So that's why I've been recommended to start a Norwegian channel and also do Norwegian content. This is still going to be the main channel, but I'm going to do Norwegian content, meaning early access, more launches, more cars, and more exciting stuff. So please help me get that channel to a decent number so we can grow both channels and it will benefit both places. So thank you very much, guys. So the Zeekr 7X. This is a car I like a lot, and I'm going to talk about that extensively in my review in about a week. But I have to say that for this price point, this is a very appealing package. Relatively quiet. It's a nice size. I mean, it's not as big as something like an EX90 from Volvo. It's smaller, but also that for a lot of people is going to be a benefit because the EX90 is a very large car. And you're getting a lot of that. For 5 passengers, I think this is as roomy or maybe even more spacious than that EX90. In a lot of ways, it is as luxurious. The sound system here is awesome. Cabin quality is awesome. These seats are great. And it comes standard with air suspension in this all-wheel drive privilege model. And the ride is amazing. It is very impressive. Though there is no eco mode for the drivetrain, the only thing I can see on the dashboard here is that when we're going 120 kilometers an hour, the suspension goes to its very low setting to make the car more aerodynamic. But there's no setting for, any more eco settings for the drivetrain in the infotainment system. But this car is also based on the same platform as the Zeekr 001 and also the Polestar 4. And though this car, in a lot of ways, when it comes to the, the ADAS, the way it drives, is better than those cars, there are still issues here that I think proves that the issues with ADAS, the advanced driver assistance systems like adaptive cruise control and, lane centering auto steer, is bound to the platform and the hardware and not how these cars are tuned. And it's a bit sad, it's a bit pity, because this car is so good at many things. They've, forgone the touch capacitive buttons, which you'll find in the 001, which drove me crazy. They never worked. And also in the Polestar 4 has been a problem. Here we have physical buttons for your audio, for your volume, for your skip track, and also for your ADAS features, which works very, very well. Also passing a truck, no weirdities, no phantom braking, and also, it tracks perfectly center. It's not nervous when passing cars or passing on and off ramps. So, what they've done here works very, very well. And also increasing the speed, because it's bound to a hard button, you're not going to have any problems hitting the button and it not responding. But talk about response. Let's turn off adaptive cruise control now. Hold the gear selector up, and to activate it, I'm going to put the speed manually to 120 kilometers an hour, and then I'm going to activate it by pulling down on the gear selector, and then I'm going to go off the throttle. There's still this massive delay when activating the ADAS in this car. It's not nearly as bad as we've experienced with the Polestar 4 or the Zeekr 001, but there's still a delay there that I haven't experienced in other cars from, for example, Germany or even Volvo. Volvo have a car on the SEA platform, though I think it's split into big and small platforms. So this is the big SEA, and the EX30 is built on a small SEA. or it may just be that Volvo are using their own hardware. While activating ADAS in the Volvo, there's no delay in that EX30 and in the EX90, not at all, not even in that Polestar 3, which is also built on that Volvo SPA2 platform. So that is my only complaint, but there's still issues here. But you know, having physical buttons here resolves 90% of the issue. And I don't think that delay is a big enough reason to not recommend this car, because it's just a little bit of an annoyance. And also when you put on lane centering, so that's on now. And when you want to change lanes, it feels like the car's like, there's a tension while it's keeping the lane and keeping the speed. And when it breaks that, there's a little bit of tugging, as I've experienced in the 001 and the Polestar 4. So it's an annoyance, but that I think proves that it's bound to this platform and not the specific cars. But okay, I just want to touch upon that, you know, talk what the differences here are and the similarities are. But I think this is a huge improvement in the way it drives and the way it rides, and especially when it comes to the ADAS features and the way you interact with the car compared to the Zeekr 001 and that Polestar 4. So guys, after about 30 minutes on the road, our average consumption is 23.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Conditions today, 17-18 degrees Celsius, dry conditions, cloudy skies, so very, very good conditions to get the most out of an electric car. But we'll see if that consumption, which I think is pretty high, will stay that high or go down as we get to our turnaround point in half an hour. Okay guys, we are now here at our turnaround point, and the car predicted we would arrive here with 69% stated charge, and we are actually here with, I'm going to show you guys, 73% stated charge. That is very good. And also our average consumption has dropped now to 22.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So that is actually better than at our last update. And also according to the wind map, we've had a headwind of about 2 meters per second on our way up to this point. So let's get back to AWD in Dal, connect to a charger and see what charge speed we get out of this monster of a beast when it comes to charging, and also to see if that consumption will stay the same or maybe drop even more. Okay guys, we are now here at our endpoint, AWD Dal. We're going to connect to a charger now, and then we're going to see what charge speed we get after just driving the car a few hours on the road. Passive heating of the battery, no preconditioning, which this car does have, either manually or via the navigation system. We do that in a different test called the long trip test, which we're also going to put this car through. But this test is all about getting that maximum efficiency, and that means not using any extra energy to heat up the battery. So let's go back to the charger we started this test at. The charge port is here on the left side. And also guys, we are here with 50% stated charge. The car predicted we would arrive back here with 46% stated charge, so that is 4% more and actually very good. Okay, so the charger's now started. The charge port is here on the driver's side, electrically operated charge port. And let's see, so this car should have a peak charging speed officially of 360 kilowatts, but we're at 50% stated charge. And when I connected the charger to the car before we started this test at around like 54, 55, we were getting like 220. So maybe we'll get the same or more, I'm not sure. Okay, 51% stated charge, 229 kilowatts. Yeah, that is pretty insane, guys. Now, let's take a look at the results of the noise test measurements before we jump into the actual range test. So, at 80 kilometers an hour, we did 2 measurements each over 2 minutes for an average of 64.75 decibels. At 100 kilometers an hour, again, 2 minutes for each measurement for an average of 66.0 decibels. And lastly, at 120 kilometers an hour, 2 measurements over 2 minutes each for an average of 67.75 decibels. And what I can say is that this car is relatively quiet, as the numbers suggest, but it's always also a subjective measurement because I'm not measuring the different frequency levels. So for example, tire noise and wind noise, I have to talk about, subjectively. And I have to say, wind noise is very well suppressed. This has, the same mirrors we've found in the Volvo EX90, the Polestar 4, the Polestar 3. And lastly, the Volvo EX30 Cross Country. And I think these mirrors are actually more noisy, though they look cool because they are frameless, than other mirrors we've seen from other cars, because there is a bit of whistle off the wind mirrors. With that being said, tire noise also, there is a little bit of tire noise. This car is on big wheels and on bad asphalt, that is apparent. But okay guys, lastly, let's jump into the range test. And again, if you want to see the results of this car at 80 and 100 kilometers an hour, I will link my Norwegian channel down below. Go subscribe to that, guys. Thank you very much. So this car over today's test had an average consumption of 23.0 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So we take the usable battery capacity of this car, 94.0 kilowatt hours. We divide it by the consumption, and then we subtract 3% for heat and discharging losses. Gives this car a theoretical range under today's conditions of 396 kilometers. And I actually think that is actually very good and very decent, because if we compare this to the Audi SQ6 e-tron we run last year, similar performance. This car does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour faster than that car actually, so similar performance. And that car had an average consumption of 22.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So a little bit lower than this, similar conditions, pretty much the same temperatures. So I think this being a much bigger car on the inside, yeah, that is actually not bad at all. So this car, a little bit smaller usable battery capacity, means this car gets 8 kilometers less range than that Audi. But I still think that is very, very close and pretty much the same result for both cars. So let me know what you think of the results of this, the Zeekr 7X all-wheel drive privilege. I think is actually very, very good. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later. Goodbye.